This video is brought to you by Bulloksu. Hit up my link in the description and use the code Gaijin15 to get $15 off your traditional treats. Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here, and can you give us just a second?
What, is everything okay?
No, it's fine, I need to talk to him for a hot second.
Okay, I guess I'll just go get things ready then.
Okay. Pokemon fans, just something I really want to mention, just right quick. Now, I know when it comes to the Pokatuber scene, there's, well, just to put it nicely, there's a lot of energy when it comes to people thinking of theories about Pokemon, who's right, who came up with them first. I don't want to bring that energy into here, and I hope that you don't either. It's just, this video, like so many other videos that I've done, is merely just a celebration of all the different neat, like, cultural nods that I find within games, and there's a lot in this particular one, and I want to make sure we started this off on the right foot and the right energy. So, for those of you who want to go into the comments and say such and such did it first, or such and such has a better theory, I just don't care. I'm just here to celebrate the culture that I find, and I hope you can too. So, anyway, let's talk about Teal Mask. So, yeah, like a lot of you last Tuesday, when the Pokemon Day presentation got to the 21-minute mark, my jaw freaking dropped. I thought surely Legends was going to be the last foray into Pokemon, but Japan we'd have for a while, but here we are, stepping off a bus into the heart of Japan's Inaka, or countryside. It's late summer, and we could tell that from the light jingle of the food and chime, the growing ripeness of the apples, and a brief glimpse of two kids running off in Jinbei. Now, this is a super traditional form of relax wear that, on the regs, is typically only worn by older people, but when it comes to things like summertime Matsuri periods, you start seeing a lot more people in these light kimono/trouser combination outfits. More so, I'd argue, than the more easily recognized yukata. And sure enough, before even seeing the traditional sights of a Matsuri, I know for a fact that's where these kids are headed. How? Well, in the very next scene, see this thing right here? This is a community announcement board known as a Chonai Kaiyo Okugai Keijiban. Yeah, that's a mouthful. And I know this might seem kinda obvious and boring and whatever, but what you gotta understand is that these metallic line green backdrop boards are in literally every neighborhood community in Japan, with every single event happening within the community being posted here, especially upcoming Matsuris. And yeah, that poster in the dead center right there, that's exactly what this is. And curiously, this one is obviously celebrating some bird, monkey, and dog.
Hold your horses, everyone, we're getting to that.
The kids in their Jinbei start climbing upstairs, and yeah, a stone or concrete staircase this long and this far out in the woods means only one thing. We're headed to a shrine or a temple. Oh, sorry, I still have PTSD from the stairs I had to take at Daiyuzan Saijoji. Anyway, once we get to the top and are utterly out of breath, we pan to these 3 stone statues and BAM! Immediately, I think everyone was able to make the connection with the monkey, dog, and pheasant being related to the same 3 companions of Momotaro, a heroic boy born from a peach who runs off to fight Oni and bring back treasure to the people. One of the most well-known folk stories and symbols of Japan.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was actually really surprised at how many people were just that quick to point out the connection. I know it's kinda obvious, but still, it's interesting to see so many people so familiar with classic Japanese folktales. But riddle me this, you cultural enthusiasts. Why are these statues wearing red crocheted hats, bibs, and scarves,
Well, that's pretty simple too. Most of the time you see these little clothes on statues of Jizo, the bodhisattva who takes care of children stuck in limbo who die due to birthing complications. Parents would put child-sized bibs, blankets, and hats on the smaller child-looking statue of Jizo in hopes that they would take care of their children in the afterlife. That being said though, you do see these same red pieces of clothing on statues of protectorate animal spirits, like Inari's various foxes. So, by and large, these child-sized pieces of clothing are a way for people to ask these supernatural spirits for protection for themselves and for the people they care for. So before seeing any hint of a Matsuri, we know for a fact that's exactly what's going to be going on here, and who exactly it's honoring.
Then boom! If any doubt remained, it's cast aside as we see the most familiar of Matsuri sites, the Yatai stalls, selling everything from food to prize-winning games to even, like, gambling. Yeah, I'm not even kidding about that one. In this case specifically, we see sellers of kakigori and yoyotsuri, 2 incredibly iconic symbols of summertime Matsuri.
Man, I could go for some kakigori right about now. It's February 28th at time of writing and it's freaking 82 degrees outside. Heck, I could go for any Matsuri food at this point. I haven't been back to Japan in 3 years and let me tell ya, withdrawal hits hard. And that's why I'm happy to say that Bulloksu's back, baby! Yep, one of my favorite sponsors reached back out to me wanting another round of snacky showcasing, and boy am I glad they did, because I got sent their big honkin' Sakura box just in time for the Hanami season. Yeah, if you thought summer Matsuris in Japan were nuts, Hanami Matsuris are on a whole different level in terms of seasonal food, festivities, and fun. And the thing that I love about Boxu is how they give you a glimpse into Japan's seasonal celebrations. For this month's box of Sakura Story, we've got everything from Japanese lessons of Hanami-appropriate vocab to the very history of Hanami itself, which, yeah, I had no idea Hanami started all the way back in the 700s. But with all this delicious knowledge comes supremely succulent Sakura snacks, with my choice favorites being the Sakura Chinsuko Shortbread Cookie by Chinpindo, the sweet and soft Sakura Boucher by Ichifuku Seika, and Boxu's very own Sakura Milk Candy in conjunction with Daimonji Ame Honpo. So if you want to get your hands on traditional biteables only available in Japan, hit up my link in the description and use the code Gaijin15 to get $15 off your purchase. Shipping's free and you can cancel anytime.
So come take a literal bite out of Japan's culture with Boxu.
Alrighty, with snacks in hand, let's get back to the Pokemon Matsuri situation we got going on over here. It was right here that was the first thing that really caught my eye. The camera pans over to another common sight of Matsuri, the yatai selling various masks. But it holds on this shot for a really long time compared to its other establishing shots.
Also, no Sentai fans, the fact has not escaped us that 3 of these masks are a possible shoutout to Avatar Sentai Dome Brothers. I mean, come on, the last episode of the show airs and the very next day we have a Pokemon announcement featuring Sentai flavored masks of Momotaro characters? Yeah, it seems a little too coincidental.
Anyway, Vibrant Fireworks, another staple of late summer Matsuris, transitions us to another signboard. But this one is a uniquely structured board, mirroring that of a lot of the other informational posts I've seen at shrines and temples that explains the relevance of a specific item or inner location on the grounds of said temple or shrine. And under the light of the fireworks, we can plainly see the Momotaro motif within the images printed. A Pokemon trainer of sorts with a monkey, dog, and pheasant Pokemon chasing after a very obvious Oni. I mean, come on. Pointed ears, horns, clawed hands. Yeah, this is absolutely an Oni. And finally, we pull out to the promo art of Teal Mask, and that's it? Like, I get it, we already know who these 3 Momotaro animal Pokemon are based off of. Pheasantipity, aka Kichi-Kigisu, is obviously the pheasant based on its portmanteau names of pheasant and serendipity for English, and for Japanese, Kichi, or luck, and Kigisu, an old word for pheasant. Monkey Dory slash Mashimashira, obviously the monkey based off its portmanteau name of monkey and hunky dory, and Mashi to increase, and Mashira, which is another old word for monkey. And lastly, we've got Okidogi slash Ine Inu, obviously the dog in Momotaro based off of its portmanteau name of doggy and okidoki in English, and Ine, a Japanese phrase of that's so great, isn't it? And Inu, or dog. But then we've got Ogerpon over here, the flagship legendary Pokemon of the DLC that, so far, we know very little about. I mean, with a name like Ogerpon, we know this guy is Oni-oriented, but which Oni is it? I mean, first assumption is that it's the Oni from Momotaro, but here's the problem with that. There aren't any specific or named Oni in that story. The Oni are just a gaggle of stereotypical bad guys to go beat up.
Well, we know that Ogerpon is the Oni that's getting chased on the signpost from earlier in the trailer. From what we can see, Ogerpon looks like it's got 2 horns on its head, but it also has small barbs under its chin, kinda like a beard. It also seems like it's got some kind of pants on too, like shorts or something. Finally, it's also got 2-toed feet. Now, going back to the Oni image from before, what do we see? An Oni with 2 horns, a spiky beard, people pants, and 2 toe-segmented feet.
Well, right, that proves that they're the same Oni, but which Oni from folklore is Ogerpon? That's the question. And the answer, I think, is really well hidden in this trailer. Now, there's one other piece of information that I found about Ogerpon, and that is it wears a, quote, fearsome mask. Now, at first glance, I looked at this and was like, man, that's really not an Oni mask, it's more like a Karasu Tengu mask more than anything. But then I looked back at that long establishing shot of all the masks at that yatai. Now, look down here on the bottom right. See that? Yeah, now that's an Oni mask. And that's just when it all clicked. Ogerpon is Shutendoji. Now, I know a lot of you have already pieced this idea together, and I'm proud of you for it, but let me explain for the people who might be still in the dark. The origin story of Shutendoji is that before he was an Oni, he was an orphaned boy with a troubled life. Even at the temple in which he was dumped off at, he would secretly get hammered with and subsequently outdrink the more corruptible monks at the temple, thus earning him the name of Little Drunkard. Well, one night during a Matsuri at the temple, little Shuten got super smashed and grabbed an Oni mask from a yatai stall and started jump scaring people for the lulz. However, at the end of the night, to his horror, Shuten realized he couldn't take the mask off. It had fused to his face. Ashamed and scared, Shuten ran off into the wilds, never to interact with humans again, and would eventually become one of the Nihon Sandai Aku Yokai. So, any of this starting to sound familiar? The trailer takes place during a Matsuri, arguably one at a temple. We have a long hold on the yatai stall selling Pokemon masks, one of which is a pretty scary looking Oni mask, and then we have a Pokemon with the name Ogerpon with childlike characteristics. 2 legs that end with feet that would be symbolic of tabi socks or shoes, possible short pants, 2 big old eyes, and while those arms might look like wings, I don't know man, I think they may be symbolic of sleeves. Because even Jinbei have pretty wide sleeves that could give a wing-like appearance. This could just be a Pokemon version of a kid with an Oni mask and Jinbei on. Exactly the same circumstances of Shuten Doji when he became an Oni.
One small hole in that theory there, bud. Ogerpon isn't an antagonist Pokemon. In fact, in another tidbit of information, it's described as being a folklore hero. As you said, Shuten Doji was one of the 3 most evil yokai in Japanese folklore, so how does that work?
You know, I thought about that and I think I might have found an answer. The popular folk story of Shuten Doji involves him in fighting another folklore hero, one Minamoto no Yorimitsu, and his companions into his home for food and celebration of all things. Yeah, this wasn't a story of samurai fighting a big scary Oni on a level field. In fact, Minamoto no Yorimitsu essentially poisoned Shuten and killed him while incapacitated. Yeah, it sounds kinda honorless, right? I mean, even Shuten was quoted saying, "There are no lies in the words of Oni." Tack that on top of the fact that Shuten and his Oni gang's crime in the story was only kidnapping daughters of those within the Yamato court. Here's my point. Oni in ancient times were not plot caulking for when a story needed a villain. In historical retrospect, Oni and yokai of the Heian period were personifications of disenfranchised people, either non-Japanese or communities of Japanese who refused to bend a knee to the Yamato court. Because of this, Japanese scholars with 2020 hindsight have been re-evaluating the concept of Oni as a demonized group of disenfranchised people, rather than just being demons. Now, I can't prove it, but I think Ogerpon might end up being a modern statement on how Oni are perceived. I honestly do think Ogerpon will end up being the big bad of the DLC, either under his own control or not. In fact, if the latter, I think the 3 animal Pokemon might also be corrupted considering their darker color schemes and their ominous looming in the background. But I think the story of Teal Mask will be one of redemption. Based on what I've seen culturally within this trailer and the design of the new Pokemon, I think the franchise is going to take a stab at reclassifying Oni, not as the epitome of evil as they once were, but identifying them as another natural living thing in this world. That's kinda always been the message of Pokemon, right? Befriending monsters who aren't really monstrous? I don't know. We'll just have to see when the DLC comes out.
Hey dude, I just realized something. So if Teal Mask is based on a myriad of Japanese folklore, that means Indigo Disc could be too, right?
I mean, I guess, but that DLC is about going to Blueberry Academy and, I don't know, getting into shenanigans?
Yeah, but here's the thing. The Academy, I think, is out in the middle of the ocean, right? And the new legendary Pokemon, Terapagos, is a powerful turtle, right? Well, guess what other story involves an individual traveling to a large building in the middle of the sea on a big old magical sea turtle? Urashima Taro. In fact, look at Terapagos and then look at the turtle of Urashima Taro and tell me they aren't the same thing.
Well, I guess we got something to talk about for next time. But until then, everyone, thanks for watching, and a big thank you to Boxing for sponsoring this video. If you want to get your Matsuri on and grab some of Japan's most traditional treats, hit up my link in the description and use the code Gaijin15 to get $15 off your purchase. And if you want to learn even more culture and games, sub up and swing by every other weekend for a brand new upload. But until next time, everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah signing out.